Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Sorry if it said twice. Actually, This is the second time I do this tutorial, so I'm gonna do this and hopefully do it right this time. So this is a tutorial on how to create a biped for a bipedal mesh, meaning two arms, two legs. My character has a little bit of extras on her, so I'll be able to add extra bones if I want to, for a little bit more detail, and I'll teach you how to do that as well. So let's get right into it. And first thing I want to do is focus on the layers here. So if we have, normally you're in your hierarchy menu and it shows like your different meshes and whatnot. But if we click here and go sort by layer, you can see that I made a layer, sorry, for at least the Kami Killer, which is the character I'm working on, her mesh. So it's just her mesh. Um, we're going to create a new layer with nothing selected. We're going to call this one, by double clicking it, we can call it Kami Killer Rig. Now, when a layer is blue like this one is, that means that it is our current working layer. So anything we create will be in that layer. Now, uh, now that we have our character set to her own layer, so we can hide and unhide, we're going to freeze that layer that appears all in gray. And in our Comic Killer rig, that is blue, our active layer. And just a note that you can switch active layers just by clicking on the actual gray icon here. We're going to create the actual biped now, the skeleton structure to attach to our character. So we go to our create menu. We're normally in geometry. We keep going to the right until we're in the menu systems. Now in systems, there's different, obviously, ways that we can create different things, but we want to create a biped right now. So by clicking on biped, we can see that it is now active, and we have a whole bunch of different options to play around with. How many neck links, spine links, legs, tails. Don't worry about it too much right now because we can modify that in a second. Uh, right now, our creation method is drag by height. So if I left click and drag, you're going to see that it creates a basic skeletal system for us. Now, once that's created, just right click so we get out of this menu. And you'll notice that the first thing is that in our Kami Killer rig, you can see we have our entire rigged folder here. Like all the skeletons are in here, so that we can always hide and unhide the skeleton and hide and unhide the mesh. So, while we have this active and open, I want you to left click on any part of the biped. And to modify the biped, it's not the modify menu like you normally go into. It's not the modify panel. You keep going to the right, you see hierarchy, and then you're going to see a motion menu. Now, the motion menu handles all the biped options. If you click off the biped to anything else, that menu will change to something different. Normally, if it's mesh, it'll change to a different mesh mode. If it's anything else, we can just change that. So, in our motion menu, when we left click on biped, you can see all these options. Now, we're setting up what's called the figure. We're setting up the basic pose of the character. So we can just click on figure mode here. We're telling Character Studio that we don't want to animate anything yet. We actually just want to modify how this biped looks. So this is very important. Figure mode means you're modifying how the bones, the biped and the bones work. And then when it's off, that means you're pretty much going to pose it and animate it. So while this is on, you can see that the options become limited down here to structure and copy and paste. Now that means that we're going to modify the basic structure of this character. So I'm looking at my character and I see how many fingers we got. For her, we got 4 major fingers, 4 toes, and the head here with the extra helmet, which your character might not have. It doesn't matter how your character looks, the same rigging process goes on, because what we need to do first is to determine how many bones this character has, at least in this biped. We can always attach more bones later. Um, so there's no ponytail. She does have 4 fingers with 3 links. If your character has 5 fingers, just mark fingers as 5. For toes, I'm not going to worry about individual toes. I'm just going to worry about one big toe. So I'm looking right now. I see 1 toe with 3 links. Well, I don't want that. I just want 1 toe that I can control there. So now that we have the character pretty much set up, at least skeleton-wise. Well, actually, I'm probably going to add a tail to my character too. Add a tail. Yeah, let's add 6 tail links. Feel good about 6. Feel good about 6. Feeling good. All right. So now that I have my character skeleton set up, at least in this point, I'm still going to modify. I'm not going to turn off figure mode quite yet. I'm going to make sure that the character fits inside the biped fits inside our character. So I'm looking here and I'm having a little trouble because I'm like, I can't now. I can't even see how to set up the skeleton and stuff like that. Well, that's not a problem. What I want you to do is unfreeze your main mesh layer, left click on it, and then right click, and then go select child nodes. That's going to select all the children underneath your folder, just in case you have 80 meshes or something. Right click, go to object properties, and go to see through. Now you can see through the actual mesh and see your biped. And we're going to freeze it right afterwards just by clicking the little snowflake. And now we have a see-through and frozen object so that when we play around with this, we can see what the biped looks like on the inside. So how to set up and structure your biped is entirely up to the shape of your character. The only important part that I always recommend to look at is to just keep rotating around your character and keep making sure that the bone structure is pretty much inside. It can stretch a little bit outside your character, but I would recommend that it stays on the inside. What's important is these pivot points. So first thing I always focus on is the pelvis. Making sure the pelvis is scaled enough to fit inside our character is very important. So I'm going to look around, I'm going to go to my different views, and I notice that maybe the pelvis is too forward, and so I'm going to, you see, like, as a note, you cannot move the pelvis backwards and forwards. If you look into a biped, the actual structure is all connected to what's called BIP001, or your main controller point. And that's the little diamond that's located in the pelvis right there. And by moving it, you can move the entire character around, like so. All around here, just like that. So first thing I want you to do is focus on is moving that diamond point, the BIP001, into the middle of the pelvis. And make sure that in all views, we kind of get a good look here. So my pelvis is kind of here. I'm going to scale it down just a bit. Oh, sorry, you can't scale the BIP001. I'm just going to move it around until the pelvis is in the location I want. And then I'm going to click the pelvis itself, and I'm going to scale it a bit so that it is inside. Inside. So now that I'm rotating around my model, I can kind of see that my pelvis is in a good location. Might be a little too big, so I'm going to go to my scale tool, scale it on the X, and you see, like, okay, that's a little better structure. I need to move everything down. And I'm just clicking F3 on my keyboard. F3 goes into wireframe mode. F3 turns off wireframe mode. Makes it very easy to play around with and make sure that everything is kind of set up where it needs to be. Now, you'll notice that the one thing that I really, really want my character right now is that these leg joints, like, you want the pivot to kind of be in the center of these legs, because when it goes down the leg, you kind of want it straight, at least in my character. So I'm going to play around with the scale tool a lot. And even though the pelvis looks like it's like way too much on the inside, that's not the big issue I want. That's not a big issue because it's simply just a skeleton bone. We can assign all these little vertex points to it right afterwards without a problem. I just want to make sure that the pivot points of these legs are pretty much right in the dead center of the leg so that it looks like it can go right down the leg. So I'm going to squish my pelvis here, like that. I'm looking at the legs. It's kind of, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what I want. And I'm going to start focusing on the spine. Now you'll notice that I'm going to be playing around a lot in the scale tool. The scale tool is very important because I can squish, I can skew, I can alter things, and it kind of gives me the look that I want. I can see that the back is too far out. Don't forget you can move some of the bones, not every bone, but some of them. So I'm moving my spine bone just a little bit closer to my pelvis bone. And I'm going to go maximize this viewport again, and I'm going to scale it. If you feel confident, you can just use it. Like for me, I work a lot in the perspective viewport, and I'm just sort of moving this bone here. centered. Squish this bone. Probably gonna squish all the spine bones to be honest. That's more like that. There you go. Widen this one. That. Yeah, it's fairly good right there. So a lot of rigging is pretty much just scaling these biped bones. Now, when you're using regular bones, I wouldn't recommend scaling too much. You should just build the bones accurately as close as possible. But with biped, the reason why the system is pretty good is because there's a lot of functionality like that that we can actually get away with. That makes it easier for us to rig our characters. Now, I just want you to go along and just rig your character. I'm going to do a very quick job here, and I'm going to try and just get a lot of this done. Um, so the scaling for everything, I think, is pretty much exactly where I want it to be so far. I mean, I can extend the scaling a little bit more. And what I'm going to do, since we've scaled all our objects in the middle, and they all look good, I'm going to start scaling the leg a little bit, making sure my leg looks good in all my different viewports. Now, because you can see from the side view, it's not that accurate to the knee. So I'm going to look at the knee, look right there. I'm going to make sure the ball joint, you'll see a little ball here between the joints. I want to make sure that's pretty much exactly where my knee is, because that's where the pivot is. And that's where the knee is going to bend at. So it's going to be a little bit more forward, just a little bit. It's going to bend a little bit back, right there. And then my shoe is going to be here, and I'm going to scale that up a lot there. Now remember, it just kind of has to fit inside. It doesn't need to really do anything else other than that. The toe here is one of my big focuses, because I want the toe to be really wide so I can always pick it up anytime I want. So you can see I'm widening the toe here, making it just a little bit taller, and widening it out. And I'm just going to move it up a bit too. Now I have a good toe as well. Just going to move it and adjust it. A lot of rigging is just like slight adjustments. You can make it as big as you want so that it looks easier to access. You can see my foot is huge compared to my other foot. Don't worry about the other foot right now, because we're going to do what's called a copy and paste afterwards. I'm just going to scale my leg back and forward. So now we got a really good looking leg here. So a way to make rigging a little bit quicker on yourself is to grab the bones that you just scaled and adjusted. So you're like, I'm really happy with the green side, not so happy with the blue side. Obviously, I want to do the same exact changes here that I did here and move it over there. Well, instead of rescaling, you can just go to the copy and paste tool over here. Now, normally you'll have to create a new collection. So that's going to collect all our poses and everything we need into one new sort of collection, well, new folder. And you can see that we have a collection 01 now. And we can copy now our first pose. So what we're doing is basically copying the posture or the pose of that leg, the scale, the width, the transformations of it, and we're going to paste it to the opposite side. So you can copy it, you can paste it. So if this leg was altered in any way, you can just repaste that pose on top of it, or you can paste posture opposite. Now, pasting posture opposite, we'll paste it to the other leg, like so. Boom. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So we got our legs done, got our pelvis done, got some spine links done. So now we want to move to the shoulder. Now the shoulder is a very tricky part when it comes to rigging, because the clavicles kind of locate the location of it and how it's altered. It varies a lot depending on all the characters. I'm going to urge you to try and just practice a few times on a few different meshes if you can. But if you want to get just right down into it, that's also fine as well. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera up, and I already noticed that my clavicle is kind of off. If I go in my top view, I can see that my clavicle is not lined up with my arm, and the side view, same thing. So I'm just going to move it like this until it's pretty much lined up. Yeah, that looks all right. Now I have to move it slightly. So my character has her arm going down a bit, so I'm going to do a little bit of rotation to it, actually. A little bit of rotation like that. I'm going to scale it wide. I'm going to scale it back in. So that's now my shoulder, like my clavicle. Just think about it as like your shoulder going into your arm. So this is kind of what that is. Um, so now that we have that set up, we can just scale and rotate the rest of the arm. And like I said before, you kind of want to make sure the pivot point or the ball point is exactly where your arm is going to bend. So mine's a little closer to here. And you kind of want, like I said, make sure it's centered because that's going to be a really important part. When things bend, always take a look about how things are going to bend. So if my arm's like this, I know that it's going to bend like that. Always do a test just by rotating the arm and seeing how your arm will rotate. If it looks off, because then your pivot point probably needs to be adjusted before you even start rigging. Um, my character is probably going to be limited to like this kind of arm movement, so I'm not too concerned about the pivot point right now. I think that's going to be pretty good. Um, yeah, I think that's fairly well. But if you still have concerns, just play around with the clavicle a bit, scale it, adjust it, rotate it, and I can see that if it's here, I might get a far better arm movement going on. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to do a little bit of rotation again. And it's going right down the arm, I think. Yep, looks pretty good. Up from this view, you can see that we need to do some minor alterations like that. So the arm is straight out. Perfect. I'm going to grab two bones at the same time and I'm going to scale them. And I'm going to scale them inwards right afterwards, like this. Making sure that the pivot point, the ball point for my elbow, is where my elbow should be. So I'm going to go there. And I'm going to adjust the arm. Keep fast forwarding this video if this is too slow for you. If you're rapid speed. But remember that remember that your character is going to be probably far different than mine, setup wise, pretty much everything wise, I suppose. But the same principles still follow. You still have to do the hands. You can end. Still have to do hands, fingers, arms. Normally. Let me try and rotate this. And using the rotation and scale tools is very key to getting a good rig down, at least with the biped. And remember that you can always copy and paste from one side to another. So I'm looking at this green side here. I just highlighted the entire arm, fingers, everything. Click copy posture and paste posture opposite. Oh, I forgot to grab the shoulder in there. Copy posture, paste posture opposite. There you go. So just keep working on that and keep getting the character done. And set up all the bones until they're exactly the way you want them to be. Remember that some bones can't be moved, some can't be rotated, but for instance, the neck here can be moved, rotated, and scaled just perfectly fine. So I'm going to do that. Rotate, scale. Her head is very big. Yeah, there you go. Now I have to adjust the fingers here, and I'm going to do that just really quick. Just a really quick rig here. Just grabbed all those bones and I just scaled them really quick. Just as an example. Don't forget to save your scenes constantly. I saved it as 01, now it's 02, save it as 03, 04, etc., etc. That way, if something happens to your scene, you don't lose everything. So I'm just setting up this finger really quick because I want to get on with it, just to show you guys how to do some more adjustments. So I'm going to scale these down a little bit. Remember that you can grab multiple bones and scale them. Very important. Like this. It's actually not too bad. Copy and paste to the other side once you've done all the alterations. And final step is just me doing my tail here, so I'm just going to do that really quick. Which is basically for the tail, it's just rotation. I'm just going to rotate. Probably should have got more links in there, but that's okay. This, scale it. This, grab that, and scale. There you go. Now I got a good tail and everything. So now next step, because I know a lot of you guys want to do this, I'm going to save it again because now I'm happy with that step. See how often I save it? I save it constantly. Save it constantly. So that we have that step done. The next step is if we want to add more bones to our mesh, so to our biped. Now, because like I have a lot of these spiky bits, I kind of want to have them animated just a little bit, especially the one on the back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my create menu. I'm going to go down to my systems menu again, where we clicked on biped, and I'm going to click on bones, and I'm going to create a new bone. Now you just left click where you want to create a bone, left click again where you want to stop the bone, and then right click and it will seal off the bone with a cap, with this little cap here. Rename your bones right away so that you don't forget. So my character is like, her skeleton is called Bip001. So I'm just going to call this Bip0001 backspike. And I'm going to copy that name because remember this tip is here. So I'm going to call it Bip001 backspike tip or node or anything like that. It's kind of good to keep these tips around because they can control the bone really easily. So I kind of like to keep them there. So next step after that is linking. So I'm just going to create this one bone as an example, and you can create as many bones as you want. But when you create a bone like this, it's going to move on its own, and it will never follow anything else. The skeletal, the biped will move on its own. The bone will move on its own. What we need to do is left click on our bone, go select and link right here, select the link. Left click and drag from the child to the parent. So the child will always follow the parent. Just remember that. The child always follows the parent, but the child can run off on its own. That's the way I try and remember the system. So left click and drag from the child. It will follow the parent, but the child can always run off on its own. Meaning that I can move this bone on its own. But if I move this spine link, so spine 2, and rotate it, you can see now that that bone now follows this. So when I'm rigging, I will also tell my skin to have the back spike so that I can grab these spikes. Simple as that. So if as many bones as you want, keep making bones. I'll just make one more bone as an example. So left click on bones here. I'm going to left click here to start my bone. Drag, left click again, right click to seal it. And I'm going to call this BIP001 head spike. I'm going to copy that name. And I'm going to click on the bone tip here. I'm going to call it BIP001 head spike tip. I'm going to click select and link from the child to the parent. So this bone to the head. And now it will always follow the head wherever it goes. Perfect. So we have a basic rig set up now. And the next step we want to do is unfreeze. After we're happy with the model, unfreeze it. I'm going to turn off see-through here just for a second. So to turn off see-through, right-click on your meshes, object properties, there's see-through on and off. That should get you in a good spot. So I'm just looking around my character. I'm kind of happy with it. Okay. If you want, you can rig one object at a time. So I'm just going to rig the armor bits here. So I'm going to make it a little bit simple here, and just to show you guys. So what you want to do is click on your mesh. I'm going to try and minimize it a bit, just to have it as an editable poly or editable mesh. So it's only like this. Because once you get to the rigging phase, you kind of want this to be just as small as possible because you don't need all those extra little features and such. So it's going to be the edit mesh or edit poly. I'm going to left click on the modifier list and I'm going to type in skin, or I can scroll down to skin, click on it. And now when you're in the skin menu, it's going to ask you for bones. If you look down here, you can see there's edit envelopes. Well, right now we have no envelopes, but if we scroll down a bit, we can see a menu called bones and add. So this is where we start adding all our bones. If you look, we're either if you're in hierarchy mode, you can sort of see this, but you want to be sort by layer mode. And you can see because we have two different layers, we have our mesh layer here, we have our rig layer here. We can see all the rigging parts of our mesh. Now, a normal error that people make is they start rigging with BIP001. Do not use your diamond shape thing. Do not use your BIP001. Just grab everything else. Except these tips too. Sorry, I should say that. Grab everything except the bone tips, because what you want to be rigged is the bones, not the bone tips. If you always have them in the list here, what I would suggest doing is to we're gonna cancel out for a second. If they annoy you and you want to be like, oh, they're so annoying, I just want to have them in a different layer. What I like to do is I like to create a new layer and call it tips or rig tips. Sorry, I'm gonna put that mesh back there. And then I grab any tips. I look down my list and I see these two tips here, and I put them in the tips folder. You can call it rig tips, you can call it anything you want. I just like to shove them there because they can be annoying, especially when you have like 80 tip bones. So that means we're never going to grab those tips again. So we have the spikes, we have the tail, everything here. Now, a note while rigging. So if I had a full body mesh, I would grab every single bone possible. But right now, I'm looking at my mesh and I'm looking at where things are, and there's nothing on the upper arms. So I don't need to click on upper arms. So just click on all the bones you need, really. So I'm going to shift click here and grab all the bones, and I'm looking through the list and I'm like, well, maybe I don't need the upper arms because there's nothing, at least in this mesh. The other mesh, yes, not this mesh. Um, there's nothing on the upper arms. So I'm going to hold control and click on upper arm to get rid of that one. And click on upper arm to get rid of that one. And now it's going to rig with every bone except the upper arms. And then I hit select when I'm happy with my bone selection. And if you'll notice, by just clicking off here and not touching it, it's already rigged. Just like that. We can already play around with our skeleton structure. Now, it's not going to be perfect, especially if you look at that. The closer things are together, the more bones are going to take from each other. So my suggestion, and how I normally do this, is I will normally go to skin, go to the envelopes, I will go to vertices. And now, while you're in vertice mode, you can actually left click and drag on your character and select vertices. And I will automatically assign vertices myself because it is much easier to manipulate everything if I assign them manually. So for instance, this arm is probably pretty good because it's very far away from everything else. But these legs, oh boy, they need help because they're very close to each other. They kind of grab from each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to grab all the vertices from this leg. And you'll find like, God, this is taking forever, right? Like I can't do this. My mesh has a billion parts or something like that. That's fine. I'm going to show you something right now. So that was a little bit of a pain in the butt to do because I need to rig this and grab vertices from this leg, but I can't because it's too close and there's a tail behind it, and these different views I can't because of the tail, and like this different view I can't because there's two legs, and this, well, I gotta grab the whole body, I can't do that. Well, I'm going to go to my edit poly, edit mesh. I'm going to go to element, and I'm just going to click on different elements like such, and I'm going to hide them. So maybe I'll just hide that so that I can rig the left leg. So I'm going to hide those. So now that these elements are highlighted, I'm going to go through my list and I'm going to look and see an option called hide selected. Hide selected. That's going to hide everything I just highlighted. And then I'm going to go back to my skin mode. I'm going to make sure that that box isn't showing right there. Go to skin mode. So now if I look at my different views, oh boy, now I can just manipulate this one. And I'm going to go to skin envelope mode. and we still have vertices clicked on, and I can still click on vertices. Now, if you click and highlight these vertices, nothing happens yet. You're like, well, I don't know what's going on. Well, I don't know what's going on here. That's fine, because what you should do in this process is click on this bone as well. You'll see these gray lines. Those indicate bones. Those indicate the actual rig that's happening. If I click on it, you're going to see what that bone is manipulating. Now, if it's red, that means it's grabbing a lot of it. If it's blue, that means it's grabbing barely any of it. If it's yellow, it's kind of in between. If it's orange, it's closer to being really strong, like it's grabbing it. Well, my ankle here, my shin, should be grabbing pretty much everything. Like it should be dark red up here, but it's not. It's being grabbed a lot by the upper leg, and I'm sure some of the bone over here is grabbing it. In fact, if I click on this bone over here, that gray line you see, I know it's very small. See that gray line here? Click on that, you'll see that there's a little bit of blue and a little bit of yellow here. So that means this bone is actually manipulating this leg a little bit. We definitely don't want that. This leg shouldn't be grabbing anything from this. Like this bone shouldn't be grabbing anything from this leg. So I'm going to go through my menu and I'm going to scroll down a bit, and I'm going to see under weight properties, I'm going to see this little wrench here called the weight tool. If I click on that, you're going to see what the majority of this bone or any bone we selected is grabbing. So if I click on this bone here, you don't see any options. But if you start clicking vertices, highlighting them, you'll see how strongly those vertices are grabbing the actual structure. Now, this is the way I start off, and you may start off a different way than I do, but because I hate the fact that sometimes these bones grab from each other, if it happens, I normally set something to 1. 1 is the highest power value, and 0 is obviously the lowest. You can use set weight to adjust with the plus and minus signs how strong something is being grabbed, or you can scale the weight, which slowly adjusts it. But what I like to do, especially if it's something like this, which is pretty much a solid object, I like to assign it full power, because that means nothing else in the scene will ever manipulate that object. Full red. Look at that. So that means that this bone has no chance of manipulating that leg. This foot has no chance. Nothing manipulates this leg except for the calf right now. And then I can start going in and assigning things like, okay, from here on, this should be the foot. And then I look in this list here and I see right foot. Right now it's not assigned to anything, but I'm going to give it full power there. So if I click on calf and foot, you can see how strongly they're grabbing from each other. And then if I go in between them, so I'm like, okay, well, this is being grabbed only by the calf, but I want the foot to grab a little bit of it. Just click set weight, the plus sign or minus sign, the plus sign here. I'm going to assign the foot more power. Now you're seeing that it's blending it a bit. And you can see these numbers mean that it's blending. You can see it right there. So 75% of the power belongs to the calf, 25% belongs to the foot, and we can keep manipulating it until they're a little in between. There's a half and half mark right there. And then we have our toe. We shouldn't forget our toe. So I'm going to grab the front part here. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, it's not bad. And I'm going to assign that to my toe. Like that. And now I can see my foot, my toe, my calf, all there. If the bones never appear here, simply click on them here. See, I can grab the toe, the thigh, the hand, anything I want here. Once you're done structuring, it's like setting up, one part of the rig, and because I've hid so much other stuff, you'll have to unhide the rest. But for now, just keep playing around with what you can. Since these are all separate objects, it's a little bit easier for me to just assign it to something. Like clearly this is like just the thigh, so I'm just going to be like, boom, right thigh, not enough power. Click it. Well, it's 100% power. Boom, red, done. That kind of thing. The same thing applies to every other part of the body. I grab vertices. I see their power. I adjust the power by clicking on them and changing the number value with set weight, or using these numbers right here. And you can shrink, grow, ring, and loop the vertices that you have selected as well. If a bone doesn't appear here, that should be appearing. Just click on it in this menu here, and then click on one of these numbers, and you will begin to assign it power. So for instance, obviously this finger doesn't use the tailbone, but if I want to, I can give these vertices here tail power by just clicking on tail here, and then clicking a number here, and you can see now the tail is manipulating a part of this bone. And if you look, you can see that the tail has this much power over the bone. So if you just keep doing that over and over and over again, you'll end up in a good position. I'm just going to unhide everything right now. I'm going to click on that mesh where I hid stuff. I'm going to go to Edit Poly, and I'm going to go to Polygon Mode and unhide all. Now it's all back. So now if you see, if I rotate my leg, this leg looks good. The other leg still needs fixing, right? So next note is what we should do is fix the other side of the body, and I'll show you how to what's called mirror weights. So let's say that one side of the body, like this leg here, obviously looks a lot better than the other leg. I rotate that bone, and I'm going, holy crap, the other leg's a big mess. Well, if everything is symmetrical, and that's very important, if everything is symmetrical, we can do what's called a mirror weight. And I'm going to click on any part of the biped. I'm going to click on the pelvis here. I'm going to go back to my motion menu. And, well, sorry, actually for mirror weights, you can just check out my other tutorial, actually. It makes a lot more sense if we do that. I'm not sure if we should do that here. Oh, we'll do it here. Okay, sorry. So for mirroring weights, what you can do, sorry about that, is you can go to the skin mode, okay? Skin here. And because this is how you assign the weights to something, if we go to skin, we go to edit envelopes, we can see that the envelopes we edited here, if I click on this bone especially, they're correct, right? We fixed this. This is what we fixed. Well, let's say this is all fixed and the other one's clearly not. You can see that it's still like doing a whole bunch of weird stuff. We can do what's called a mirror weights. If we go to mirror mode, we can adjust the orange box here that's appearing by clicking mirror offset and mirror threshold. And for me right now, as soon as it's in a working position, everything will line up green and blue. If it's red, that means it's not going to mirror correctly. If it's green and blue, it means it will mirror correctly. The reason why everything is red down the middle is because the spines and the head don't have a mirroring point. You don't mirror that because they're dead center. But you do mirror the arms and the legs. So now that mirror mode is on, our mirror offset is set correctly. It's set to X, which is correct because it's mirroring one side of the body to the other. I'm looking at it. All right, looks good. I can click on mirror green to blue bones and mirror green to blue verts. So what should have happened, I hope it did, is now that if I move this leg, yes, it copied the same thing we did to this leg to this leg. So if I move this, there you go. So that's a basic tutorial, very basic, but mirroring is pretty simple as long as you remember to just add that everything is symmetrical. If it's not symmetrical, unfortunately, you're going to probably have to do a little bit of work yourself. You can change the mirror threshold a little bit. So if you go to, sorry, wrong one. If you go to skin and you go to envelope, you go to mirror mode, and you notice that it's still red. I'll move my threshold a bit, like that. You can change. Sorry, that's the offset. You can change the mirror threshold. What the mirror threshold does is it grabs more vertices in a further distance. So you see that everything is still green and blue now. The more I raise the mirror threshold, that's because it's still going to try and grab as many vertices as close to what the one side of vertices is to the other, and just paste it anyways. So if you had like a gauntlet, like a bigger gauntlet here, and I just increased the mirror threshold, I could probably copy all the vertices, the weighted vertices here to the weighted vertices of this arm, even if it looked different. So just try that out a couple times. Try and mirror your weights just like that, and you'll be fine. So that's a little bit on weight mirroring, weighting your character, setting up the skeleton structure, adding bones. The last thing that you should do is animate your character. Now, to animate your character, like I said before, you go to the motion menu, which controls everything. Click on a part of the biped, and you should have this menu. We're on figure mode right now, which is pretty much setting up our character. I'm gonna hide the other part of my character because we're not using it right now. Okay. And sorry if I go there, and we're on figure mode, so we got to turn off figure mode while we're trying to animate our character, because right now we're telling 3D Studio Max, yes, I am rigging right now. Do not animate this character. If I try to move the character with keys on, do not add a keyframe. But if we turn that off, now we can animate. So you can turn on auto key or set key. You can see that in our menu options, we have a lot more menu options now to play around with. That's because it's expecting you to animate. I would always suggest that if you're animating, leave the motion menu open and open up the key info um, box. And at frame 0, keyframe everything. Not your mesh, you can hide the mesh, but keyframe everything in the biped. Now you'll notice if I selected everything that the biped menu disappears. That's because I have bones too. The biped menu won't appear if you highlight bones. Watch if I take off the bones, the menu comes back. That's fine. I have my key info I want to open up, and I'm going to set all my keys at frame 0 by clicking key info. And set key. I'm able to create a keyframe here. If I right click on it, you should see controller properties, all these properties right there. And then take your bones, turn on set key mode, and set key those bones too. That means frame 0 is going to be my default frame. Now I'm going to switch to auto key mode and skip one frame ahead, and then I can start posing out my character how I want. I'm just setting up a random pose. Just by rotating the bones, all I'm doing is rotating bones. Frame 1. So frame 0, frame 1. I'm just grabbing bones and rotating. Grabbing bones, rotate. And then at frame 15, with auto key on, so it's automatically creating keyframes for me. Rotate. I'll rotate everything. I don't know what I'm animating, but it's something. There you go. And now I'm going to unhide my mesh. And you've already started animating. So it goes from rigging to animation really easily, and I'm sure you'll get this. Slowly watch the video, go over it, pause the video every time you're doing a step, just so that you can keep up. I know I did it really fast. You should never rig something in only 45 minutes, but hey, sometimes crunch time comes around and you have to. But try and take your time. Remember to set up the skeleton. Make sure your mesh is okay for rigging. Look up reference images. Try and set up enough polygons in the joints, especially the shoulders. Um, especially the shoulders here. Especially the shoulders, and especially the elbows and the knees and the pelvis are very important. When it comes to rigging, they are the most difficult parts. Make sure that's set up correctly. Set up your bone structure according to the video or according to how your mesh looks, because that's the most important. Put it inside your mesh. Don't forget that it can protrude a little bit. That does not matter. Your rig will never be rendered. You'll turn that off, and then just start using the skin tool. Using skin tool here. Using envelope, clicking vertices on, and then being able to select the vertices, you'll have full control over how you rig. And then if you click on the weight tool, the little wrench here, you can see what's being manipulated and how individual vertex too. So just play around with that. Try and rig something accurately as possible, and you'll be absolutely fine. I guarantee it. Just have fun with it. The more you have fun with it, the better it'll be. And don't forget that the end result is a cool looking character that will be fully animated, and that's why you're doing this. And if you keep that up, absolutely fine. Thanks for watching. I know it was a long tutorial, but hey, we got a character from start to finish rigging with some extra bones and everything. Uh, so, that's pretty wicked. Oh, yeah, and here's the bone. Want to check it out. I know it's not rigged accurately because we didn't rig it accurately, but you can see that it is manipulating that, the fin because we attached it. So, yeah, everything worked out well. Just take your time, rig it properly, and you'll be fine. Thanks for watching, guys. I know it's I know it's a long video, but hopefully it helped. Take care.